And the entire point that I'm trying to convey to you guys is that you want to be as meaningful as you can with your time. You want to know what you're doing at every single given moment, and you don't want to do anything randomly. You don't want to be directionless. You want to have a point to every single thing that you're doing. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. What we're going to be talking about today is how to be more productive with your time when you're learning to code. A lot of people, when they start learning how to code, they adopt this mindset of just spending the most amount of time learning. They think that if they spend, 6 hours, 7 hours a day just learning how to code, taking a course, coding, building a certain project, and that if they work hard enough, they're going to be able to understand more concepts, they're going to be a better coder at the end of the day. And while this might work for a lot of people, what I have found through my experience, as well as talking to some of you, is that this is a pretty unsustainable way of learning how to code. And this whole approach is just pretty unsustainable. A lot of people don't have the time to spend 8 hours a day learning how to code, and if you have other things to do, it makes it pretty difficult. But the main thing for me is that this leads to burnout. You get pretty overwhelmed. And then I think that one of the biggest reasons why people stop learning how to code is that they have this realization that, okay, I just spent like 8 hours a day for a couple of weeks and I really haven't made that much progress. And this leads them to basically quitting and giving up. And in my opinion, there's a couple of things that you can do to switch up your strategy when learning how to code. And that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. So for me, the way that I learn best and when I code my best is when I'm super concentrated and I'm in this thing called like a flow state. This is like a term used in like the computer science community on YouTube, where basically you're super concentrated, everything else is blocked off, and the only focus that you have in your mind is getting whatever task is at hand done. And so what you guys have to do is find the best way to get into this flow state so that you can be the most productive coder that you can be, and you can actually be extremely meaningful with your time. And what I find is the best way to get into a flow state is to just block some time off, right? It can be 30 minutes, an hour, maybe 2 hours, and just dedicate that time only to coding. So only to, if you're taking a course, you're only doing that course. If you're working on a project, that's all you're doing, right? What you want to do is like throw away your phone, turn off all distractions. You're not checking YouTube, you're not checking Instagram, none of that. Maybe put some good music on, get your headphones on, and just concentrate on the task at hand. And probably at first, what you're going to want to do is, maybe set a smaller time block, especially if you're just starting out. Maybe say, okay, for these next 20 minutes, what I'm going to do is just code and nothing else. This really helps you get into that state of mind where you're super concentrated. A lot of times there's a difficult, problem that you have to solve, and it's not going to be easy to solve when you have notifications coming off and a ton of different distractions around you. What you want to do is be completely focused, and for me the best way to do that is to block everything off. There's screen time on your iPhone that you can like turn off like distractions, and there's basically a lot of resources out there for you to stay focused. And if you can manage to develop a strategy where you're extremely focused on coding and nothing else for a specific amount of time, then I guarantee you'll be a lot more productive when you're learning. Well, like 1 hour with everything blocked off versus 4 hours, but you're checking your phone constantly. You're standing up, you're eating, you're microwaving, whatever. You're watching like some show on Netflix in the background. I guarantee you that if you just block off your time and dedicate it all to coding only, that you're going to be a lot more productive and you're going to do a lot more learning. Another thing that I want to talk about is that a lot of people, myself included, have this problem like getting started in the beginning of the day, right? You want to procrastinate, you want to do something else, and that just initial change of state from like hanging out to now I have to do work and start coding, that can be the hardest part, and oftentimes that's all you have to get over. And once you're over that, then you're good to go and you can actually work. You're in the right state of mind, you're focused, and you're ready to code. And a good way to approach this and to actually get into this state of mind and get over this like hump where you don't want to be productive, you want to procrastinate and do anything else other than work, is to just give yourself a time frame and be like, all right, I'm just going to start working right now for these 5 minutes. And that makes it a lot easier to approach than when you're thinking, okay, oh god, I have to do this for the next 8 hours of my day, right? So if you just have this mindset or like, okay, I'm just going to start, I'm going to spend 5 minutes doing this one task, you're going to realize immediately that once you start working, you'll already be in the state of mind where you're ready to work, and the 5 minutes are over, and it makes it a lot easier to start really doing meaningful things. For me, adopting this has made a really positive change in the way I work, the way I like approach any kind of learning. Like even at my full-time job, when I start the day and I have this mindset of like, okay, let's just do this for 5 minutes, it makes it a lot easier in the morning when I'm super lazy, I haven't had coffee or like breakfast or anything like that. It makes it a lot easier to get the workday started. And I think that's like one of the hardest parts about learning. No one's forcing you to learn. When you're learning to code, you're doing it by yourself. No one's there holding your hand. Most times it's just online. You're taking some course that without a teacher, without any like videos or anything like that. So getting started is the hardest part, and not procrastinating is pretty tough. But I found that this strategy works for me, and hopefully it works for you guys too. And the last thing I want to talk about is when you know you have a lot of things that you want to accomplish on a certain day, you want to write down your to-do list. This can be, whether you're working full time and you have a lot of things to do, or if you're just taking a course and you want to cover a couple of different subjects in that day. What you want to do is write down every single thing you want to do, because a lot of times you're going to forget what you want to do, right? At the beginning of the day, you know what you want to do, or even at the end of the day beforehand, you know what you want to do the next day. And if you don't write it down, the odds are you're probably going to miss something. And if you put this in the context of learning, right? If you're going through a course and you're going through a certain topic and you realize, okay, I don't really understand this that well, you want to write it down so that you revisit it later, because odds are if you don't write it down and you keep going, then you're going to forget about it, and what's going to happen is you're never going to go back to it, and then in the future when you need it, you're going to have to go back and learn it again for the first time, basically, right? This has a negative impact on you as a developer because you're missing out on certain possibly really important topics. And if you write down all your to-do list tasks, the odds are you're going to actually complete them all, and you'll be more aware of your progress. If you have half the things done that you wanted to do for the day, that feels a lot better than if you're just not writing anything down, you're just going through a course and you don't have a measurable way to determine how much progress you've made, right? So write down a to-do list so that you remember how to do everything, so that you're not relying on your memory, which will oftentimes fail you when you're doing all this complex coding and all this stuff like that. Another reason why you want to write a to-do list is because, like the last tip I mentioned, it makes it a lot easier to start. When you just sit down at the beginning of the day, you're like, hey, today I'm gonna, do this module on JavaScript, and you don't really have a plan about it, and you just go through it, you're not gonna be as productive as if you write down certain topics you want to do, or if you're working on a project, you want to write down certain features that you want to cover on this one day. If you're sitting down and you just start working on a project without any clear direction, you're gonna be jumping all over the place, and you're not gonna be making as much progress. The entire point of this video, and the entire point that I'm trying to convey to you guys, is that you want to be as meaningful as you can with your time. You want to know what you're doing at every single given moment, and you don't want to do anything randomly. You don't want to be directionless. You want to have a point to every single thing that you're doing. And if everything that you're doing has meaning to it and it actually is helping you out, that's way better of a strategy. And you can spend 2 hours doing that versus 8 hours just roaming around different courses, different topics, and just being distracted all the time. It's not the best way to learn. So guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and remember, the 3 things that I mentioned today are: block off a certain amount of time to be able to get into a flow state and really only concentrate on coding during that time. Then you want to approach the start of your day using the 5-minute rule, where you just tell your brain, okay, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes, and that really eases you into starting a productive workday, rather than having this daunting task in your head of, oh, okay, I have to do this for 8 hours today. And the last thing is, write down a to-do list. It's going to guarantee that you actually remember the things you want to do and you actually complete them. And also it'll make your learning a lot more productive, and you won't just be coding, working on a project with no direction. Every task you're going to be doing is going to have meaning to it and a point to it, and you're going to be a lot more efficient and productive with your time. Remember, what you want to do, especially when you're learning, is you don't want to waste time. You want to be meaningful with your time, and then that's how you achieve success, right? So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment down below if you have any other ideas, or if you agree or disagree with anything I said. And as always, guys, enjoy your coding.